been around aviation for many years, associated with the local hot air balloon pilots for, oh gosh, probably at least 15 years. Also, FA safety team rep with the FSDO office in Dallas, and I guess that's pretty well covered.
Great. Okay, so our connection with the morning flight was that Dale had commented on my Facebook post, so I knew he was awake in the middle of the night. And I had been checking weather throughout the night, actually, when I woke up at certain intervals, checking things out. He happened to be awake, so I had sent him a private message telling him I was going to be flying in the morning. So you had taken a look at the weather then, when obviously a little bit more when I had said that I was going to be going?
Yep. There was a cold front that was approaching the area from the north. It was pretty well defined. The timing of it was a little bit suspect, but probably the most critical part of it was the timing was going to be a potential frontal passage at about the same time that the balloon would have either been inflating or getting ready to launch. So it was I guess I would say a interesting situation, possibly in a critical situation with the potential for the wind shift. Thunderstorms were being downplayed, but there was conflicting forecast information. Terminal forecasts and area forecasts were downplaying the possibility of thunderstorms. The Storm Prediction Center had said that there was a possibility of general thunderstorms in our area with a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms north of the Red River, but not in our immediate area. So there were definitely things going on that were worth watching, I guess is what I would say.
Well, and I agree with that. My comment was it was weird winds when I was looking at all my sources, and I thought that it was very interesting things that were going on.
Mm-hmm.
I elected to not cancel and at least continue to go to the field to see what we had. And before that, I had looked at one of the radar pictures was showing an aerial weather out by Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I had been taking a look at. One of my crew members actually lives in that area. So I texted him at 5 a.m. and I said, hey, what's going on with the weather by you? He said, I'll go out and look. He went out and looked, and that area of weather was not even reaching the ground, even though it was showing light precipitation on the radar. Is a wide, pretty big area, actually. So that he said it wasn't even reaching the ground, and then you had commented at some point in the morning that it had diminished.
Yeah, I pulled up my WeatherBug app and looked at the radar depiction in WeatherBug, and the indications were that it was a diminishing area and moving to the southwest, which is sort of unusual. We don't always see that in this particular area. So again, that was another kind of a possible, I don't know if it's a warning sign, but something that made it worth watching because it was sort of on the unusual side.
Yes, yeah. I agree. The whole morning was, I would say, weird and interesting is when I was looking at the weather, not any one thing telling at that point that we should go ahead and cancel, so I elected to continue. One of the landowners in the area, a non-pilot, she had texted me and said, hey, we're ready to go, let's go fly. And I said, well, we have some interesting weather going on, and being a non-pilot, she was like, okay. Like,
yeah.
She didn't know what that meant, because on the surface, it was beautiful.
Absolutely.
It was,
yeah.
and even the winds aloft that I was looking at the time were very light winds. They were not even yet indicating anything that was a warning in any way at that point.
Right. I think for the average person or non-pilot, they would probably look at the clouds and say, "Oh, aren't those pretty?" You know, it was kind of dark in some areas, and the sun was kind of coming through, so picturesque, but probably not good for flying. Yeah.
No. Okay, anything else that you might want to add for leading up to the flight time, which was about 7 a.m. or so?
One of the things that I always try to emphasize to people is looking at multiple sources when you're trying to make your go, no-go decision. that would have been a perfect example of why you have to do that, because I looked at one source, the weather bug radar, and it didn't look that bad. You could have looked at some METARs to see what the surface winds were doing, see if anybody's reporting any convective activity. There's actually even different sources of radar that I know people kind of get used to using one thing or the other. I like weather bug myself just because of the way that it portrays the echoes. But in a case like this, where there's a significant potential for outflow out ahead of the thunderstorms, a weather bug and some of the other things, for-flight radar depiction doesn't work really well to pick up the fine, what sometimes you hear called a fine line or an outflow boundary or whatever. They really kind of filter that out so you can't see it. So you almost have to go to the National Weather Service radar site and pick an appropriate depiction so you can really see the fine details.
That's a very good point. At that point, I was on the launch field, so I wasn't actually even looking at that. What I'd like to point out is I have my phone set up for alerts. So the first alert I had was when I was walking around the balloon during the setup. I had a lightning strike within 30 miles of Denton.
Yep.
That was a notification that came up. I get that, and I'll see that. Even if my phone's on Do Not Disturb, which I leave it on a lot, I still check it because it'll come up as a notification on my lock screen. And that was my first indication. So I stopped what I was doing. I got the radar out. I took a look. I looked at the sky in more detail, and I could see it developing at that point. Mm-hmm. So notifications on your phone are very worthwhile to have set up for your launch sites.
Absolutely. And when you're by yourself, in your case particularly, you're trying to really do everything, get the balloon ready to go. It's easy to get your head down and get focused on getting the balloon ready to go and not have the focus on the weather. And I've been involved with looking at the weather for balloon accidents and things, and that's a very common occurrence where people get their head down, not watching what's going on, get committed to going without really looking at things. And nowadays the situational awareness is amazing. You got your text alert that said, hey, there's some lightning, obviously instead of head down, if you're looking at the sky, most everybody can tell when things are starting to look a little bit questionable, and then use it as a kind of a red flag to say, I need to dig into this a little bit more.
Very good. All right, I'm here with Michaela Sims, and she is my main crew chief. And so what position were you working today?
I was fan.
Okay, fan. And any thoughts about first impressions with weather at the start of the morning? Anything?
Well, at first I just thought it was really pretty with the clouds, and I was taking a bunch of pictures, but I just thought it was colder than usual. I didn't think anything of it really. I wasn't suspicious.
Okay, so she's a non-pilot. She is crew member, had no exposure to aviation before she got into ballooning with me, and she's a great crew chief, very experienced, and has worked all the positions, and based on who we had at the other positions, decided to work the fan this time. Okay, so the weather started changing somewhat rapidly. At what point was your first awareness? Was it maybe when I was saying something to you?
I heard thunder, but
Okay.
I didn't see anything. And then you said something when you were cold inflating. So.
Okay, what did I say?
You were like, there's lightning. And I was like, oh. Can we at least hot inflate? Like, I want to do something.
That's a big one. So she was like, can we at least hot inflate, right? You want to get out there and you're thinking, like you said, I want to at least do something, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, I said... Yeah, I said probably we can try to do that. What did you think my impression was of that?
Right, I was like, I don't think she wants to. I think she's just trying to appease me, but we'll see what happens.
She's right on, because I was like, yeah. So, okay, so that is exactly correct. So at that point, we decided to keep going, and I switched it to a training for one of my crew members to inflate, because I knew I wasn't needing to do that. And I knew it was still doable for him. So what do you think about the inflation?
I think you did a great job. I was so proud. I was over there clapping. I would have taken pictures if we had more people. I was I was like the proud little mom over in the corner.
Okay, and so I agree. It was very good for what we had going on.
I was still kind of worried though because it was really windy. It started picking up really fast.
Okay,
so.
started picking up fast. Okay, and then when did you realize it was turning south?
Well, as soon as we got up, I saw Jarrell on the crown line, and he was pulling really hard, and I was like, that's interesting. And then I saw the balloon kind of shift, and I was like, the wind's shifting. It shifted the other way. So I was like, it's going to go over. And
Yeah, okay. So, and how was the pack up?
it was a little difficult. Well, the pack up was easy in general. Just, getting it down was kind of difficult.
Okay. When it was still, so from the time we secured it
Yeah.
to the time we let out the air and we were bringing
that
it down,
was
that was
nice.
the difficult.
Yeah.
That was the difficult part.
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
that was difficult. But once we got all the air out of it, then it was fine
Yes.
again.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Nope, that's all right. Okay, anything else you want to add?
No. Not
Okay.
really.
And again, we didn't tear the fabric that we know about. It did go over the trailer, but we don't think we tore it at all. We didn't
Yeah.
burn the fabric at all during the inflation or any of that, and nobody got hurt. Okay, so it was all good.
Yeah.
Would you say good learning experience?
I think it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're more prepared for if
And
that
you-
happens again.
Yep. And you know now why we would not fly under those conditions.
Yeah. Afterwards, I was like, it's really windy. This would not be good to chase or to pack up. So.
Okay. And any last minute thoughts?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Jarrell Choice. He's one of my crew members. And can you tell us what position you were working today?
I was working crown line today.
Crown line, okay. And any thoughts about the weather leading into getting out there?
The weather was pretty windy, and
When we
Well, that-
first started setting up, or was it okay?
when we first started setting up, it was okay. Then after it started getting windy, as soon as we set the balloon up, and then as soon as we was taking it down, that's when it really started getting crazy.
Okay. Okay.
4 people.
4 people helped? Okay. So you've worked the crown line before, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so under lesser wind conditions, much easier to do it by yourself? Usually, I mean, because
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
just you. Okay.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And then today, obviously, we had that wind shift. The wind started picking up when we got a wind shift. And you could see it turned into like this giant sail, and all of a sudden it was difficult, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it did end up going over the trailer because of the wind shift. The basket was tied off. The basket did shift. Those are things he wasn't aware of course, because he was just holding the crown line and trying to work that, and we still had air in it, right? And then once we got the air let out, then it started being reasonable again, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then the pack up was fine?
Yes, ma'am.
The
Pickup was good.
Yeah, pack up was really good. So really the most challenging part was, which you had, was that wind shift.
Yes, ma'am.
From the time that you were out there and it was looking fine, and I'd already briefed about stay out there, it was inflation only. I said, I'm not gonna call you in. So you understood that part and did that, and you stayed out there. And then did you have any immediate thought as soon as that wind shifted? Was there anything you were thinking about?
I thought it was gonna probably mess up the trailer a little bit because the balloon was going over the trailer. I was
Okay, so you were concerned about the trailer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And were you concerned about your safety at all or anything like that?
No, I was okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so any last minute comments you want to make?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. You did a great job for the changing edition. This is really the most wind that you've experienced, we've all experienced setting it up. But we knew it was a inflation training practice for one of the crew members, and it was all good, actually. All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm here with one of my crew members, Emilio Fideli.
Hola.
Okay, so I'm going to ask him some questions. We're going to get his first impressions and interpretation of the weather we had this morning. And so what position were you working this morning?
I initially started off with the crown line and tabbing.
Crown line and tabbing, okay. So anything going on there? Have you worked the crown line much?
I think this is my 3rd time.
3rd time, okay. Have you tabbed much? A little bit?
Second time tabbing.
Second time tabbing, okay. So a little bit new in the position still.
Very much so.
And okay. And then any thoughts about the weather as we're coming in this morning before we actually got out there?
On my way, whenever I left the house, I did see some The sky had lit up a couple times with some lightning, but it was way east of us, so I didn't even think anything about it.
Okay.
So, but other than that, I didn't even check.
Okay. You leave that up to the pilot, right?
Exactly.
The pilot should know, right?
PIC,
okay.
right?
The PIC. Me. Okay. So, okay, that's good. So, and then as a pilot, I came and checked them. I was a little bit held up at the mouth of the envelope because we were looking at some weather. I was checking my radar. So I was a little held up getting down to the top like I usually do.
Okay.
By the time I got down there, I realized that they had forgotten to unhook the crown line on the ring.
Yep, that was my bad.
From the carabiner. So it was already way up. But Amelia and I pulled it down enough. He unhooked it and we got the crown line out. Super important, even on a calm day, to get that crown line out. So it's just the inexperience with that a little bit, not working that created that scenario. But we were able to help get it down and get the crown out.
Yep.
And then what position did you do after that? You moved because we had Jarrell work the crown line. So what did you do after that?
I came up and
I told you to
I was
come and help.
pulling the envelope out because it was twisted.
Okay, and that was new for you, right?
Yeah, I've done that
Ish.
a time or two.
Okay, so he was pulling the side out, so I had him come up to the front and pull the side out.
The top wasn't on the top.
Yes. We want everything straight. So I was doing crew training at that point with one of the crew guys. He was going to do the inflation, so I was switching him over to teaching him the pilot job. So Amelia was assisting us in pulling the sides out so we could get all straight.
Yep.
Okay, and then we did the inflation. That was fine. We got it standing up for the most part. That was fine.
Yep.
And then at what point did it seem to start going south on us?
About the time that we got it fully inflated.
It was perfect timing. Okay,
Yeah.
so our new guy doing the inflation training, we got it fully inflated, and then the wind started shifting, and we decided to hurry up and take it down.
Yep.
Okay, and so it's any first impressions about what happens when the wind starts shifting and stuff?
You don't have any time at all.
Sometimes it can go quick, right?
Yeah, because this was kind of a gusty front that came through, so.
Yeah. And so in this case here, it was like it was almost like a gust in front of that line coming through. And
line.
and we didn't have rain yet. Rain hadn't begun. There was distant thunder and lightning, but yeah.
It was raining everywhere but on top of us at that time.
Yes. Yeah, probably. So the wind shifted a little bit, but we were tied off. The basket did shift and move a little bit, but we weren't concerned about that. The only concern at that point was the fabric over the trailer,
Yep.
and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So other than that, the pack-up was great.
Yeah.
We just had to compensate for the basket being rolled not the proper way we want. So we had to roll the basket over to
What do you
make the
call
line
those?
straight.
Not the tether. Yeah, your lines. They were all
Yep.
twisty.
So, and other than that, the rest of the pack-up was fine. Is that right? We didn't burn the fabric, we didn't rip the fabric, and nobody got hurt.
I hope we didn't rip the fabric.
We're pretty sure we didn't rip the fabric.
Fingers crossed.
We'll check it out. We're pretty sure we didn't rip the fabric. All right, thank you. Anything you want to add for crew members who are learning this stuff and are thinking about rapidly changing weather or a potential for that?
You just got to learn it as you go.
That's right. All right, and be safe. Okay, I'm with Weston McElroy.
Hi.
And tell us, what crew position were you assigned first for this morning, or chose to do?
So I started off holding the scoop
Okay.
from the fan.
Okay.
Full inflation.
Okay, so he was doing the mouth of the envelope position. But we had, even before we met out at the meetup site near the launch, setup and launch, potentially, we had been in communication this morning pretty early on, right?
Yeah.
So you live about an hour away to the northwest?
I do, yeah. Halfway between Fort Worth and Wichita Falls, up a bit. Yeah,
Okay.
Bowie.
And so I was looking at the radar really early this morning in the weather conditions, and I had sent you a text because there was some precipitation showing up on the radar out in your way, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I asked what that looked like, and you...
I went outside, and there was a ceiling, but no precipitation at all.
Okay. And that area of weather was actually dissipating at that point.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so we went out to the launch site. We figured out where the winds were going. We did our layout. You did the mouth of the envelope.
Yep.
And then at what point did you realize the weather was kind of changing a little bit?
It was actually on the drive in. I saw a couple of flashes of lightning on the way in.
Okay.
Kind of noticed that. I was like, maybe this won't be, a real flight at that point.
So you already knew that,
Yeah,
heads up.
yeah.
And your background is a pilot.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so a little bit more, instead of not having a pilot background as crew, you had a little bit more of awareness that is
Right.
possibly a no-go
That's
this
correct.
morning,
Yep.
but we were headed out to
Right.
see. And that is one thing, he's in training right now for the balloon pilot.
Right.
And that's one thing along the way, we do the next thing, and we ask ourselves, are we going to go? Are we still going to go? Are we still going to go? Right?
Right.
Okay, so that's where we were.
Yep.
Okay, and then I said to you while you were holding mouth of the envelope open, I mentioned the weather, that I had
That's
seen weather.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. And I was just going to be an inflation-only flight.
Okay.
Instead of a real flight.
So inflation only. And then at some point we changed it to, I asked you if you felt comfortable doing the inflation
That's
for
correct.
training.
Yep. And so I moved into the basket to do the
Okay.
inflation.
So, and then how do you feel like that went?
It went good. It was a lot of information there, but I think it went really well. So I was very keen on pointing the burner in the right direction.
Okay, it was a lot of information, as we
Right.
know. Training flights are.
Right.
You're getting a lot of information at one point. You don't really have the experience yet to know certain things yet. So it was a lot,
Yep.
but the inflation overall felt pretty good.
Yeah, it felt very in control.
Yeah. Okay, and I agree. It looked very nice. And then at what point did we start to? We'll see what your answer is compared to the other guys. When did you think it started to go south, as I called it?
When the wind changed from out of the north.
Yeah, and then the balloon was at
Yes.
what point?
It was inflated, but
Yes.
not completely inflated. And
Yeah.
we pulled the vent, got it,
Yeah.
that under control.
We untabbed it. So
Untabbed
we just untabbed at the top. We pulled the top.
That's about the time the wind changed out of the northeast, and
Same time.
Yeah, and so it started drifting.
Started
back.
getting a little squirrely.
Yeah, it was not going the direction we wanted it to. So.
Started going south at that point.
That's right.
Go on now.
Literally.
Yeah. Literally. Yes, because the fabric actually started going south at that point. Okay, so, and then that part was a little not great. The fabric went over the trailer, as
Right.
we'll see in the pictures. And, but once we ended up pulling it and getting the air out, then at that point,
It was
things
under
were-
control. Yeah,
everything
it
was under control.
Yep, no, it was. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And also, you saw the reason why we tie off. Did you notice the basket shift?
it did.
Uh,
It started going the other direction, kind of back to
From
the
how
south.
we laid out.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that's a really good reason on why we tie off.
Right.
We have a good tie-off point. We tied off the basket,
Yep.
so it's not going to go anywhere because the
That's
basket
correct.
did shift quite a bit, right?
It did. Yeah, it went the opposite direction and rotated off one side.
Yep. Okay, so overall, I think it was a very good training session.
No, absolutely. I got to see something that's kind of unusual.
Yep.
That we hadn't seen before, so that
Yep.
was fantastic. So,
Okay, and any last-minute thoughts or any ideas you want to share at all that you can think of?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
It was good. Enjoyed
Okay,
it. So.
it was good. So he got 0.1, and he's going to have 0.1 in his logbook toward his hot air balloon and flying, and more experience that will help with future
Yeah,
flying.
no, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so one of Dale's jobs in the past locally is he's been the official weather man for balloon festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So will you tell us about working with the Balloon Meister and how you come to a decision on whether it's a go or no go based on the weather?
Absolutely. We'll get together well before the morning or evening, and I'll put together a package. I've got certain things that I like to look at that I know are good products that I can trust. And then it's a collaborative effort between myself, the Balloon Meister, and usually like a couple other pilots would get together beforehand and make a go, no-go decision. Sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes it's like we need to look at it again. We do supplemental briefings. Everybody's had those when they go to balloon events. So, and in fact, this particular day would have been a perfect example where you make the decision. Yeah, it looks okay. We're going to go ahead and start the process, but at some point we're going to take a step back and kind of do a supplemental briefing and look and see what's going on, and then kind of move forward or stop from there.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And based on the weather you saw yesterday, your opinion of going at least to launch field, setting up, inflating,
Oh, yeah.
was it a good weather window at that point?
Anybody that knows me, they know my favorite word is opportunity. So it was a good opportunity to get everybody together and go out in the morning, and then just constantly monitor and see where it was going to go from there.
Cool. And that's exactly my thought process as well. I had a crew that wanted to go out, and I call it gates. At each gate that I have, I decide whether or not I'm going to continue and go forward to the next gate, and that's what I did along the entire way. So as we know, forecasts are just that. They're forecasts. They're not actual conditions. The pilot is ultimately the one in charge of deciding whether or not the actual conditions at the field are safe enough to continue on to the next step. And that was exactly the process that we had yesterday. So
it was a perfect example of how do I want to say it? I don't know if any weather forecasters will see this or get mad at me, but the forecast was not going correctly. So in the weather briefing business, we call it nowcasting, because they're looking at it and going, uh-oh, this is going bad. So now it's nowcasting. They look and see, we got a cluster of thunderstorms. Maybe we need to amend the forecast to show thunderstorms in the area, things like that. And it does happen every once in a while. It's not perfect, obviously, but it's pretty darn good.
yes. And so that's why it's very important. And I was wanting to put together this video because it's very important to be cognizant that weather is changing, and the forecasters do their best to get it right, and it doesn't always work that way. So it's up to us to make those final decisions when we need to do it.
Absolutely. Sometimes I think we have this vision of the forecasters, 20 forecasters sitting in some building in Fort Worth at the National Weather Service, all poring over this aviation weather stuff, and it's really not that way. It's only a very small group of maybe 1 or 2 people that are working on it. So, and they can get distracted, things can happen, and when things are rapidly changing, it can get pretty hairy. So there we go.
And that doesn't apply to just Fort Worth, of course. That's everywhere, that we fly the balloons, at least in the United States.
We have our forecast office in Fort Worth, and great people, and that's the ones that we rely on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dale, for your expertise in this manner, and I appreciate you being available to actually help me evaluate the weather as well that morning.
You bet. Thank you.